Welcome everyone to the Endless Stories channel, where you will find with us the pleasure of listening to many interesting stories. If you like today's story,
do not forget to support us with the subscription and like button.
We leave you to listen to the story.
Chapter 3: Confrontation with the Mirror.
Yasin's heartbeat accelerated as he stared into the mirror. The person inside looked exactly like him, but his eyes were empty, like two windows overlooking an endless void.
The person slowly reached his hand through the glass,
as if the mirror was no longer a barrier between the two worlds.
Yasin couldn't believe what he was seeing. Was he imagining it?
Or was what was happening real?
Yasin took a step back, but curiosity still clashed with fear inside him. He wondered, is this person a reflection of him?
Or maybe a copy of him from another world? Before he could find an answer,
the person in the mirror spoke in a calm but filled voice. Why did you come so late?
I've been waiting for you for so long. Yasin was shocked. The words were directed at him, and he couldn't back down now.
Who are you, and why do you resemble me? He asked with a trembling voice. I am who you would have become.
I am the truth they tried to hide from you. Everything in this house is connected to me.
And you? Yasin's feelings of confusion doubled. What do you mean? What are you trying to say? The mirror is the gateway.
Behind it lie the answers. Grandma knows, but she doesn't want you to know. All those warnings were to keep you from reaching me.
You've lived in this shadow for too long.
And now it's time for you to discover the truth. Come closer.
Yasin hesitated, but the strange feeling that this might be the key to all the secrets that surrounded him pushed him towards the mirror. As soon as he got closer, he felt something strange pulling him towards it. The glass surface of the mirror was rippling like water, as if it wasn't as solid as it seemed. He slowly reached out towards it, touching the surface cautiously. Suddenly, he felt something cold wrap around his hand and pulling him forcefully. He tried to pull his hand away, but he couldn't. The strange force was stronger than him. In an instant, his entire body was drawn towards the mirror, and he found himself passing through it as if it were a gateway to another world.
When he opened his eyes, he found himself in a completely different place. He was no longer in the old basement. He was standing in a huge room filled with old books and paintings that looked like
they belonged to ancient times.
The walls were covered with heavy fabrics, and dim lights illuminated the room from candles hanging in the corners.
In the middle of the room stood the same person he had seen in the mirror,
but now he looked clearer and more real. Welcome to reality, Yasin.
This is where everything was hidden from you.
Yasin tried to comprehend what he saw.
Where am I? And what is this truth you are talking about?
You are now in a world that overlaps with yours, but few know of its existence.
This old house is the key between the two worlds.
For generations, your family has been protecting this secret,
and Grandma was the last to guard it.
But now you know, and what is behind this door is not just a storeroom. It is a place where worlds meet, and mirrors are the bridges between them. Yasin felt that everything he knew about his life was crumbling.
But why me? What do you want from me?
Because you are the heir to the secret.
You were always special, even if you didn't realize it. You were able to see things that others couldn't, and feel things that were imperceptible. Grandma was trying to protect you,
but in the end, she couldn't stop you from getting here.
Yasin took a step back, and the idea of escaping began to creep into his mind.
I don't want to be a part of this.
All I wanted was to know what was behind the door, not to become a part of a strange world. The person who looked like him smiled calmly. But it's not up to you now. You open the door and pass through the mirror. There's no way back.
But don't worry, you'll get your answer soon.
Suddenly, the room began to shake, and strange sounds began to echo in the air. The floor beneath Yasin's feet was moving, and the walls seemed to be melting. The person who looked like him disappeared into the shadow, and everything around him began to turn into a world full of colors and sounds. Yasin found himself drifting in that whirlpool, unable to control his movement.
He felt like he was drowning in a sea of endless questions and mysteries.
Just when he thought he couldn't get out, he suddenly felt a strong hand grab his arm and pull him up.
When he opened his eyes again,
he was lying on the floor in the old basement. The mirror in front of him had returned to its solid state.
Grandma was standing beside him, her eyes filled with tears.
Son, I warned you. You shouldn't be here.
But Yasin, who was feeling tired and scared, could no longer ignore the truth. He had become part of this secret, whether he wanted to or not. Now, he had to figure out how to control the power he had unleashed from behind the mirror.
Chapter 3 ends here, and the story becomes more complicated as Yasin enters another world through the mirror and discovers part of his family's secrets. Now we have reached the 4th chapter entitled The Chosen Heir.
Yasin sat on the floor, catching his breath, and Grandma's tears were falling down his wrinkled cheeks. Her gaze was filled with regret and sadness, as if she had always known that this moment would come.
But she hoped to postpone it as long as possible.
There was no need for words. The silence in the basement was more eloquent than any speech.
Grandma took Yasin's hand tenderly and helped him up. I warned you, son, but it seems that fate is stronger than my warnings.
Grandma, what's happening?
I saw someone who looks exactly like me. He told me that I am the heir to this secret, and that there is no going back.
What are you hiding from me?
Yasin said in a voice mixed between curiosity and fear.
Grandma sighed deeply, then led him into the old living room, where they sat in front of the cold fireplace.
The house seemed eerily quiet, as if everything that had happened
downstairs had been just an episode in a long nightmare.
Yasin, it's time for me to tell you the whole truth, but you must be strong, because what I am about to say will change everything you know about your family and this house.
Generations ago, our ancestors were guardians of an ancient gate, a gate that separated our world from another world full of secrets and shadows. The gate is not visible to everyone, and not everyone can cross it. Only the chosen ones from our family can see the mirror and open it. But it's not that simple. Anyone who tries to cross the gate must face their shadow,
that dark part of themselves. Yasin swallowed his saliva as he listened to his grandmother's talk.
But who is this person I saw? Why does he look like me? The person you saw is your shadow, the other side of your soul.
Everyone who passes through the portal is forced to face their shadow,
which represents the side of ourselves that we hide, the hidden desires, and the fears that we bury deep within us. If you do not face it and understand it, you will not be able to control the power that the portal holds. Your grandfather faced his shadow,
but he could not overcome it, and this is what led to his gradual collapse. Yasin looked at Grandma with eyes full of concern. But why me?
Why now? You were chosen since birth.
There are forces in this world that seek to maintain the balance between the worlds,
and you are the heir to this balance. You were always different, weren't you? You felt things that others did not understand.
And you saw what the naked eye could not see. These signs were indications that you were the only one who could handle this power. But by opening the mirror,
you have now entered a stage from which there is no return. Grandma was silent for a moment, then continued. What's important now, my son, is that you learn how to control this power. It may seem terrifying,
but there is a way to overcome your shadow and control the portal.
If you fail, the worlds will merge, and the consequences will be dire.
Grandma's words were heavy,
and Yasin felt as if a huge weight had been placed on his shoulders.
But how can I do that? I don't know anything about these worlds or my shadow. Grandma held his hands tenderly. I will help you, my son. You are not alone in this. I have learned a lot from my ancestors,
and I will teach you what you need to succeed.
But you must be brave.
The days ahead will be full of challenges.
In the following days, Grandma began to train Yasin. She led him to dark corners of the house that he had never known existed before.
In the basement, behind piles of old wood and discarded tools,
there was a secret room filled with ancient manuscripts and strange symbols.
Grandma was explaining to him how to use these symbols to control the powers he gained from the portal. Each symbol here holds a part of the power you will need on your journey.
But remember, Yasin, that power is not only in the symbols, but in your soul. You have to find the balance between yourself and your shadow.
The training was exhausting and confusing, but he felt gradual progress.
He felt his powers increasing day by day, and he was learning how to communicate with the other world through the mirror. But he knew that the decisive moment had not come yet.
He had to face his shadow again, and overcome it. He wanted to control the portal. One night, as he sat in front of the mirror in the secret room,
he saw his shadow appear again.
This time, it was clearer and more challenging.
Are you ready now, Yasin?
The shadow asked in a calm but defiant voice.
Yasin stood in front of him, steadfast, and despite the fear that still controlled a part of him, he felt something new, a feeling of strength and control.
I am ready. This time, I will not run away.
Chapter 4 ends here, as Yasin prepares to face his shadow, again after beginning his training to control the powers he has acquired.
Now we have reached the end of the chapter. If you liked this chapter,
do not forget to support us with the like button, subscribe to the channel, and activate the notification bell to receive all that is new.